view from our hotel, which is actually a farmhouse that we rented, Volcano Arenal, and that what you're seeing is not smoke, it's actually just clouds. But anyway, connected to it is La Fortuna. The volcano is just outside of La Fortuna. Is this place? It's a rope swing on a creek, a stream, really. El Salto, well worth going to. It's free. You pull up. There's a woman who's selling coconut, some fruit and stuff, and she sort of kind of helps you park your car, but don't. She kind of. I gave her too much credit. I should have parked it exactly the way I wanted to park it instead of, she kind of put me in a funny spot, so when we had to leave, I had a bit of a struggle getting out because the cars were parked funny right behind me, not enough room. Wonderful little place, kids had just a blast. Anytime you can go to Costa Rica and you get a bit of a thrill like this and you're not having to pay for it, it's a wonderful treat. So this, it's easy enough to find. It's in La Fortuna, just outside of the main town, going down a road maybe 5 minutes, and there's a big bridge, and you park either on one side or the other side and make your way, lock your doors, and make your way to this pretty little idyllic little spot. I think the locals have put in this rope. Kids found it extremely useful. Isaac, my youngest, is a little bit more brave, and he tended to grab the rope by the horns and just dove in. You'll see Ivan, the middle child, and he's much more apprehensive and slightly painful to watch, but that's his personality and that's who he is, and I think he's going to stay with that. But anyway, he eventually does make the plunge, if you will, and goes in. Now when we arrived, it was all wide open. There was nobody there, and we're thinking, wow, man, this is great, what a nice private little beach. But boy, in a short amount of time, folks just started streaming in, and we got a local gringo guy that brings this kayak, and I'm thinking, okay, now where are you going with this inflatable kayak? And of course he's got like this dog that just is barking incessantly, so it had to be a gringo. But anyway, he has moved here from the US, and this is where he makes his home. I would say La Fortuna was probably the least blown out, the most prosperous town that we were in. It's most like a town that you might see in the US, where it has real coffee shops, numerous coffee shops, even an ice cream, and a few custom chocolate places. So that's unusual to see chocolate made in Costa Rica, and it wasn't overwhelmingly priced. So if you haven't had a chocolate fix, this is La Fortuna is a good place to go ahead and get it. There's me. I'm taking the plunge also, and the water is definitely refreshing. It's not exactly cold or anything, but it's coolish to the skin, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, we would have hung out here much longer, but I think later in the afternoon comes a pretty strong rainfall, and I guess we did kind of cut this part of the adventure a little bit short. I would have stayed here probably another hour, but it was really coming down in pretty big sheets, and the car was close, so we thought, we've been here long enough, let's blow this place. But anyway, you will see the locals coming, and they're doing some most unusual flips and trips and jumping off of the cliffs, and so they really have investigated this whole place. One thing I will say that I was real impressed with was the young guys that were hanging here. Don't be surprised, a lot of pot smoking in Costa Rica, and this place is no exception. But at any rate, some of the young guys were real generous. I mean, they would actually hold the rope for the gringos, and probably maybe more so for the girls that would show up, and instead of being selfish and hogging the rope, they were extremely generous, and I was impressed with the quality of character that we saw here, and I did not see that they were doing it for any ulterior motive, just because I think that's how these guys were. So I think that's a good reflection of the town also, La Fortuna. It is a beautiful area. There's lots of resorts around. The downtown is a real neat kind of a walkable. It's got a nice little central garden. There's enough businesses around, and I felt that there's I guess true to its name, enough prosperity in the town that they don't have to cheese the tourist. And so I found the folks to be far more generous, and I felt less inclined, like I really got to kind of watch my back in here. The hotel, well, it wasn't really a hotel. We stayed at through Airbnb. A fella who's downtown in La Fortuna, has access to half a dozen different houses, and we looked at one in town, and I don't know, something about being in a town didn't quite appeal. So we ended up renting a place just outside of town, and it was a whole farmhouse basically. The cool thing is that farmhouse was connected to a resort, which gave us access to the resort and to the pool, which was a great addition. So we could stay at the farmhouse, and I'm going to mention that it had air conditioning, but the windows had no screens. And so in the evening, boy, when the lights are on, there's a lot of bugs that come out. So it's okay during the day, but I would say that, man, you really need that air conditioning. Otherwise, you're gonna get inundated with bugs. And the farmhouse also had a bunch of fruit growing on it. I knocked probably about 20 avocados. It even had one of my favorite fruits, guanabana. It was a little bit overripe, and had lemon trees and orange trees. I think the lemon and lime trees were just coming into maturity. So I snagged probably about 20 limes, and well, actually there were lemons, but they're slightly green. But then I used that on my papaya that I would eat almost every day. At any rate, yeah, this place gets happening as the day progressed, and I'm not really showing it in this video clip, but there's probably 20 additional new folks that come in, and they're doing some pretty fancy acrobatics, jumping off of the cliffs and off of the rope and doing flips and twists and stuff. So but I would say in all, it was a real chilled space, and easy enough to get to. Parking seemed to be all right, where you didn't have to really necessarily worry about your car because there's enough people coming and going, and I think that there's less incident of that in this part. So there's some more videos of my sons diving into the water. It's kind of neat to see them under the water.